Accessing agent files. Brian Sovryn. Early 21st century anarchist. Creator and host of the podcast Sovryn Tech. By the year 2021, the show would be instrumental in the downfall of various conservative ideologies in the government, helping usher in an incredible time.
Hey, want to take a walk on the wild side and experience the bleeding edge of technology? Then get ready, because it doesn't get much more edgy than this. You're in for a wild ride. You're listening to Sovryn Tech with your host, the man in triple black, the Golden Stallion of the tech world, Brian Sovryn. He's got a huge brain. And now here's Brian.
That's right, the Golden Stallion here with you for another great special. Oh yes, I love doing these specials, especially when I get to have great guests on. And this week, I am really, really honored to have this guest on, because it's one of these moments of happenstance where, fortuitousness, where I find something that I absolutely love, and I say to myself, I find a piece of software or an app or something, and I say to myself, man, I wish I knew the guy who made this, because I want to talk to him. I want to get him on this show, or the gal, either way. And it just so happened that an app that I really enjoy, the person that develops it actually reached out to me. And I couldn't believe it. And so I have Rafi here with me. Rafi, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, Brian, thank you.
Yeah, now you are the developer for BattleSuit Runner Fitness. And this is an app, is it just on Android, or this is on iOS as well?
It's on iOS, and we recently released on Amazon. Well, it's Android too, but Amazon Play as well.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's in the Amazon App Store,
yeah.
Which that was probably a pretty easy port to put that on there.
Oh, yeah. They told us they'd promote the heck out of it because they're so desperate for people. And it worked, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Now, BattleSuit Runner Fitness, this is as the name implies, this is a fitness app. An interactive fitness app. And also, you're a department director at a hospital. And so I think that's really cool to know that you didn't just, come up with something and you have no background in the areas of fitness. You're the real deal, Rafi. And I think that's impressive as hell. I had no idea about that until, honestly, just a few minutes ago. and that's great. So, I'll give a little intro of BattleSuit Runner Fitness, and, then I'd love for you to talk more about it. But it is something, and in fact, just in recent episodes of Sovryn Tech, I've kind of talked about how, a lot of these Fitbits and things like that, I do have concerns about it, but I had no concern about your app. And I love the fact it's like this, because something I like to do with Sovryn Tech, I like there to be a lot of, kind of an interactiveness, almost like you're doing a radio play of sorts. Mm-hmm. And BattleSuit Runner Fitness, really appeals to that in me, to where there's kind of a radio play going on. I felt like when I started this up, that I felt like I was, doing in real life, I was acting out like the first 5 minutes of the original Halo game,
right?
Where it's like, yeah, test out your armor and all this stuff, because that's the thing, is like you're supposed to be simulating this storyline where you're testing out armor and you're taking on this like kind of invading alien species of sorts. And it's got great effects. The acting is top notch, and I want to get details on all of that. But if you want to go into more depth about what BattleSuit Runner Fitness is and how you came up with the idea, why don't you go for it, Rafi?
Yeah, sure. So BattleSuit Runner Fitness, that BattleSuit's one word, is an ultra immersive running / fitness adventure game that's kind of unfolds on your phone while you exercise. Mainly running or walking, but you could use it cycling, skiing, any kind of outdoors, especially that gets you moving. For any of your listeners who are familiar with Zombies Run, it's kind of similar to that as kind of a baseline, but I believe that we've kind of improved on a lot of issues. So, Zombies Run was this very famous game that costs like between $4 and $8, just for the basic download. And what it is it's kind of like this book on tape, this audio adventure that just unfolds through your headphones when you work out. So, in between missions, you can build up your base, you can collect these things, but it's really just like a mini game to play that doesn't really affect much of the game.
Sure.
So BattleSuit Runner Fitness takes all those elements. It utilizes GPS as well to add 3 more things. So it's a sci-fi, not zombies, but it's a sci-fi kind of a, like you said, Halo / Metroid kind of Starship Troopers type thing where you got this kind of, mechanical battle suit thing.
Yeah,
And,
see, now I love all of that, and like literally everything you just listed off, I think is awesome. And I'll tell you, like the zombie thing, and I've played, that zombie or played, acted at whatever term we use. I guess calling it a game is fair. I played the Zombie
it's barely
5.
a game though.
Yeah.
It's a book on tape. It's like listening to a podcast while you work.
Right. Yeah.
Which is good. I listen to Sovryn Tech all the time when I work out,
Right on.
But I'm not sprinting like 200 beats per minute, at the same time. It's more like a casual jog kind of situation.
Yeah. So I played Zombie 5K and I was like, it's like this is a really great idea, but God, I am so sick of this zombie shit, So to get like a sci-fi go ahead.
No, if you're not pressed for zombies, it loses its appeal real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So to have a sci-fi story was just eminently appealing to me, and I was hooked instantly. So keep going.
Yeah, so it's got, I'd say, 3 elements that go beyond kind of the book on tape zombie / sci-fi theme. So first of all, it's like an RPG with like legit battles that unfold over your. Oh, by the way, it mixes your music in like Zombies Run in between kind of scenes, right? So you got this.
You can make a playlist,
story.
right?
Yeah, you make a playlist, or we just released the version you can do silence if some people wanted it. It doesn't float my boat, but whatever you want. And you have this playlist, and let's say you select like 30 minutes workout or 50 minutes. It's gonna weave depending on your mission that you're playing / workout. It's gonna weave. X amount of songs. You might have like 5 minutes of talking, then like a 4-minute song, then 3 minutes of talking, then 2, 3, and it's going to kind of weave those in. So, you kind of have a mixture of game and kind of getting pumped. And it just psychologically, it works out really well because, they're like, okay, you're approaching the objective. We're going to radio you in a few minutes. And all of a sudden, like your favorite Metallica song or techno or whatever the heck you listen to just comes on and like you were immersed in the game and you're like, sweet. So it's kind of the best of both worlds of like, workout music, your playlist, right? Whatever you want to listen to with kind of this adventure. But it's also got battles like RPG, turn-based, battles, and you can upgrade, you fight these aliens, right? And they're kind of like these Starship Trooper kind of, burrowing aliens that pop out and chase you down. And sometimes, so you got these battles that play over your music, and you can upgrade your suit with the resources you collect, from killing the enemies. So you can upgrade your lasers and your armor and your targeting modules and get like proximity mines and these other things that, let's face it, it's turn-based battles where, you do a swing, they do a swing, there's a critical hit, nothing revolutionary, but, it's the same probably level as like a Flash game if you played one of those Flash RPGs, basic level, Final Fantasy type thing, but it kind of just, you don't have to do anything. That's going to unfold based on the number of enemies and your upgrades, right? Another aspect that's nice is choose your own adventure aspect. So, you'll be listening to the music and you'll go on your objectives, and whether it's a reconnaissance mission or a sabotage mission. And then they'll be like, okay, do you want to save the hostages or do you want to pursue the remaining enemies? If you want to save the hostages, slow down for 10 seconds. And if you want to pursue the enemies that got away, speed up for 10 seconds. And then there's a little 10-second interlude, and based on GPS, doesn't matter if you're walking 1 mile per hour or you're like sprinting, Olympic style, it's going to detect a certain percentage change in your speed either way. And then it's like a choose your own adventure book. Those books, turn to page 22 if you want to do that, and 39 if you want to do whatever. Right. It's got that element. So you can affect the outcome of the game without whipping out your phone and having to start messing with buttons while you're playing. And then,
yeah, I love it. I mean, you really do get hooked. And like I said, the voice acting and the sound effects, all of that is really, really well done. I'll let you keep going, but I definitely got more questions about all that.
Yeah, I mean, we did a version that most people will never have heard of with some buddies of mine, at my place at first, and it was cool and it did the trick and people liked it. But some months back, we just totally redid everything with professional voice actors and professional music and all that, just because at that kind of a workout, the graphics aren't that big of a deal and all that other stuff.
Right.
You want to have the good acting and good music. Otherwise, it loses some of its intrigue.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's so important because, something that I love movies and I love video games. Obviously, I'm a video game developer, but it just, you lose something. I think when you read or when you listen to something, your imagination gets to run really wild, and things can even become more real than if you're actually seeing them in your mind. And so that's what I really like about this is that, the audio, it all just feels so good. And you can, like I said, you can really get into it. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate that. And for someone, hopefully your listeners are imagining what it's like, but I'll tell you really got to try it out. By the way, we do have free versions to download, free and full versions, and the free versions are all the same as the full. They just have the first 3 missions instead of all the missions. So,
right.
Anyone who wants to try it is welcome to. But yeah, really, I'd say when you're exercising, so if you were just putting this audio on in front of your computer or something, that's one thing, and you can get into it. But when you're exercising, and they say, "Watch out," or "Do you see that path up to the left?" or "There's a water tower on your right," you'll find yourself, whether you're running in the forest or the city, or the countryside, you'll find yourself looking at stuff and be like that, like that house, it'll automatically be the compound, and that you'll find a road that's the fork in the road, and your brain will somehow just associate it with what you're hearing and listening to. And there's just something really cool about that I think really adds another dimension to the workout as well.
Yeah, there's even moments where one of the doctor, I think it was in the first mission where the doctor's saying, "Okay, look up here," and I just find myself, "Oh yeah, I'll look up there."
Right, exactly. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. It's amazing how that works.
So the third aspect I just want to touch on quickly is this supercharge mode, right? And that's like the choose your own adventure with the changes in speed, but it's a sprint. And again, based on your speed, your baseline speed, whether you're just walking, jogging, or full out running, the app's going to be establishing your speed while you're running. And then when you have these supercharge modes, it's like supercharging your suit. It's like a super move, right? And you kind of generate in the plot, you're generating excess energy that charges the iridium in your battle suit, which lets you kind of do this kind of fireball sprint kind of a thing. And that's used in the game actually to affect outcomes of gameplay a number of ways. Sometimes enemies will latch onto you and you can shake them off if you reach this kind of critical speed. Right. And this kind of power song comes on while you're doing it, so it kind of ups it even more. You can blast through walls. You can sometimes they'll tell you to sprint, and depending on whether you successfully sprinted or not, you'll you'll kill 4 enemies and just have to battle 1, or you'll have to battle all 5 at the same time, like if you were unsuccessful. So that's just something you'll find yourself all of a sudden sprinting like a freaking madman through the city or whatever. And other joggers walking their dogs and stuff are looking at me what the hell is wrong with this guy? But you're into it and your heart rate goes up. And it's a pretty good experience. It still gets me going, even though I know it by heart by now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And, that's another thing too, is I think a lot of people, when they try out these types of games, which, out of the ones I've tried, and I mean this seriously, the Golden Stallion doesn't sell out. Yours is really my favorite of the bunch by leaps and bounds. And I don't really care if people think I look insane when I'm going around. And I think it's becoming more commonplace. You take a game like Ingress or something where people are pretending all kinds of things are going on. But it seems like people kind of get it now. And just like people got used to gigantic phablets being next to somebody's head, And so, I think maybe people are like, well, someone's going to look at me like I'm nuts. Yeah, nowadays, I don't think that's such a concern anymore. So I love it. And honestly, if people give me strange looks, whatever, I made their day.
Well, look, a lot of people are getting really jacked with this and similar apps. I mean, you got to find what works for you. But I mean, with Zombies Run, I lost 9 pounds, and I'm not a huge guy, And then even a lot of my friends and people are like, wow, I just lost 20 pounds on this app. They go from not being fit or being fit, and they can laugh all they want, but if you're losing 15, 20 pounds of healthy, in a healthy weight loss. Right. Without making any other significant changes, to your lifestyle, and you're having fun at the same time, why not? I mean, this app is not intended to replace your Halo or your Call of Duty or, whatever game, is your thing that you just want to veg out for 4 hours and play. But what it is kind of, my intent with it was instead of playing a 30-minute flash game instead of working out, because you're like,
Right.
screw it, I don't want to go jog, listen to the same song or whatever. It's cold outside. You can put this thing on, and I think you can definitely get at least as much, if not more, entertainment value by the end of your workout. Not to mention, take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you raise a good point about it being cold outside. I can't wait. I love running in, when there's just snow everywhere, and it's really freezing out. I actually really enjoy that. And I am looking forward to taking, the BattleSuit for a test run in the snow.
Right. We'll make a special mission. It'll be the Sovryn mission. Hey, maybe you could do like a voice cameo, and
yeah, there we go.
The actors, and we could have like an Arctic attack kind of thing.
BattleSuit on Hoth.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But yeah, and that raises the next question. I mean, like, I'm curious about what it took to produce an app like this, and all Sovryn Tech listeners, like you say, there's a free app that people can try out. Please do try this out. I can't recommend this enough. But I'm curious about what went into production. Like, the actors sounded great. I mean, were you hiring professional actors? And like more about the sound effects. What did it take to do all of that?
Okay, great question. Well, first of all, I had gotten started. My little brother was getting into making apps, and he never made any money off of them. But he recommended this book called App Empire, and I'm reading through this book, right? And it's like how to get rich on apps, and it's like, yeah, and you just get a bazillion downloads and blah blah blah, and it only costs this much to start it, and it all made sense to me, right? And I'm like a business guy, like I'm MBA kind of, that's kind of my thing. So
Sure.
I couldn't find any major holes. Like, the market is like, it's like the fastest growing market in the history of markets, right? That the app art market, that is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's global and it's scalable and all that. So, and I know you've talked about it a lot, how kind of it might be in some ways a bubble, right?
Sure.
On your show. And I've actually come to agree with that. So I got this book. I had very minimal technical experience. I had some sound editing experience, nothing professional. And I actually I had met at PorcFest in 2010. I joined the Free State Project 7 years back. And we carpooled up from the DC area where we live. This guy, it was me, two buddies, and this one guy we didn't know, right? And he actually ended up being, one of my good friends, become one of my good friends. And he's a developer, just an ace on iOS, Android development. So when I had this idea for the app, I went to him. So coding wise, we kind of have a little partnership going. So coding wise, it didn't cost a whole ton, yet I outsourced some to some people in China and India.
Okay.
And that sent me back, I'd say about $4 to $5K. Now that's a lot for an app, but you have to understand that this app, it's not just click here, do this, do that. It uses GPS. There's all kinds of caching issues that will cause errors with the GPS, and all kinds of technical things to always calculate the speed. There are all kinds of in-depth algorithms for like, you pick a 55-minute workout, and you have songs that are 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 2.3 minutes, and how is it going to constantly, without crashing your phone, going to be constantly deciding which songs to put in there without always picking the same song? So technically, It's very in-depth and very detailed, way beyond anything I could do.
Yeah, you probably had a lot of APIs that it has to interact with, and really, I mean, like, this isn't Flappy Bird, it can't be, it can't be a failure of a game and that be like, or like Goat Simulator, where the fact that it has bugs is a selling point. It can't be that.
Exactly, you're right. And listen, at the beginning when people were finding bugs and we were fixing them, I mean, even if we fixed the bug within 24 hours. People said, hey, I downloaded this app, I selected a playlist, I put it on, I did it, and 5 minutes into my workout, it crashed. So they're not going to try that app again, right? They're pissed. Right. They're much more pissed than like some, little app that you're using on the bus, doesn't work or whatever.
Sure.
So that's that. So that's about how much it costs development. I think if I wouldn't have had if I would have done it all outsourced, India and China, it would have been like at least 20, 30K, because it's very intense in terms of technical specs. Graphic design, I outsourced to a guy in the Philippines, and I found all these people like on sites like Odesk, right? Like freelancer Odesk, where you kind of just see, they got a rating, they got 5 stars, 4 stars, and you just pick them. The graphics aren't super duper graphics. I didn't need them to be. I mean, once you start the game, there's nothing about the graphics that you need to interact with it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it's something I'm big on. It's all about gameplay and story for me. Graphics are a secondary matter. I mean, I recognize for a lot of people, and this is of course a different kind of game, but for a lot of people in gaming, graphics seem to be everything. But man, get over that. If you got a great story like this does, it's secondary.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's unfolding through your headphones, like you said. So,
Right.
so not the graphics, not a huge deal. We could improve them, but I just didn't see the ROI at this point on improving
Agreed,
graphics. What else? Well, so the recording, that's actually the most interesting part. That's the part I was the most involved in. We did
Okay.
outsource several of the voices to different people on Odesk. So you got people in the Midwest doing it. You got people in New York. You got one more thing. The actual writing, I did part of it, and I hired a laid off Hollywood script writer on Odesk for a really reasonable price who really liked sci-fi, right? And then I kind of edited it to make it kind of more workout friendly, right? The script. But I have a guy in Croatia doing voice. I edited it all myself using Audacity. Had a neighbor the one neighbor who was really good at voice acting. I had him do one of the characters. And then the music, some of it is kind of open source sounds, but a lot of the stuff like the supercharge and the theme music and stuff, that was done by Silver Sound, a professional recording studio run by a good friend of mine in New York City. And they do stuff for TV, movies, like they're like a legit professional, because that's the experience, right? It's the sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and honestly, I got to say, I love public domain sounds. I use them all the time.
Yeah. All the lasers and stuff. I wasn't paying anyone to give me those. There's enough lasers floating around the internet, bomb sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's even like public domain like music that in theme, like some of which I use in Sovryn Tech even to this day.
Oh yeah, some of mine are too. Some of the basic ones that I needed for 30 seconds, because you know how much music costs from these professional places? You're talking like $1,000 a minute sometimes.
Oh yeah. You go to Pond 5 or whatever. I mean, they offer a great service, but man, are they charging? Yeah. It's crazy.
Right. So again, most of the experience of the music in the app is the player's playlist during the workouts. Right. That's what's going on. The other music that I'm talking about, it's like, they're giving you the mission and they have music at 10% volume in the background, and then it kind of fades up to 100% for 10 seconds, and then your music fades back in. So, not a big deal.
Right. Now, how long has this app been out, and how long did it take to develop all the way around?
So the first version's been out for almost 2 years. And, we started with the Android, and then we added the iOS, and then we added the free versions. And every few months we come out with a new kind of thing, Amazon, whatever. Right. Development took about 6 to 8 months. I was doing it part-time. My developer was doing it part-time. Plus the Odesk people, some of them are part-time. Kind of a big project for apps. Someone, like you said, to develop Flappy Bird, you could hire someone on Odesk to develop it, or people, graphics, this, that. And, I'd say $500 to $1,000 later, you have a working app. I mean, it's pretty simple. This kind of wasn't one of those apps. And every time to test it, besides the UI, you got to go out and run, make sure the GPS works. By the way, it does work inside, except it doesn't know your changes in speed without GPS. But you can play it on the treadmill.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
If it's cold or whatever, the story will unfold. It'll just assume you had a constant speed.
Phenomenal. Yeah. So, you mentioned earlier how I've talked about on Sovryn Tech in the past about the app bubble. I mean, if you've been around 2 years, I think that's kind of the solution to surviving a bubble is longevity. And so if you've been around for a while, I think you can get past that. And so I certainly hope the same for, for battles for BSR, as it's called.
Well, it's a good point, and it's definitely getting more and more popular every month. I mean, it's not dying out; it's getting more. Having said that, we still have not gotten anywhere near what Zombies Run has gotten. I mean, you look at you don't see their revenues, but their downloads. They have, what was it like? Last time I checked, it's like 500,000 plus just on the Android version, maybe even 1 million plus. And
That's amazing.
Think they charge usually on the old version $8, and it's like almost always on sale for $4. And you just do the math, even if it was the minimum, if everyone bought it on sale at the minimum 500,000 plus downloads, I mean, they killed it. And the only thing I can think is that, it was just less saturated when they came out with it. And now things are that much more saturated. And, to do a marketing campaign, like they're a marketing company, really. Six to Start, the guys who made Zombies Run, they're a marketing company. So, for me to do a marketing campaign, I just don't have the resources to do something to the level that they did, where you just plaster everything. But whatever, people like the app, and I think it's a healthier growth as well, the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, well, it sounds it sounds organic. It sounds like, passionate about what you've got going on. I mean, and I think that's great. As to where when I hear, like, I didn't know that about Zombies Run, where that it was just like, a marketing company. In that regard, it's almost like, well, because there's a truth to the fact that if your marketing really is that good, you can, you can sell crap to anybody, right?
Right. And look, it's a good app they have. I mean,
it is actually pretty good. Yeah.
And it's good. It's definitely good. But you just to get that amount of people to see it and then to start sharing it on social media, you got to have an initial kind of boost.
Yeah, and I guess maybe they had the fingers in the pies to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm curious now. What inspired you to make yours? I mean, what was behind that?
So, I used to be in the military several years back, before I kind of became more of the libertarian that I am now.
Sure, I can understand that.
Takes one to know one, right?
That's right, you got it.
So I had kind of come back and after the military, and I started putting on some weight, and I was working, and I was I wasn't huge, but I was just not feeling so good. I got to do something. So I started looking at the fitness apps, and I used to be in combat unit, really tip top shape, right? Right. And so I started looking at some of the different apps, and I saw it was featured actually on Google Play, Zombies Run. And I downloaded it for $4. I'd never paid for an app in my life until then. This is like 3 years ago or something. And it was cool. Like I said, I lost a lot of weight at the beginning, and it was enough to keep me, into it at the beginning, and until I got bored with the zombies crap. And I said, you know what? I had just been reading this App Empire book. I was kind of fresh out of my MBA. I had these successes, and I knew the developer that I've been working with, that we know from PorkFest, in New Hampshire. And so I just said, let me put all this stuff together. I got some money to throw around, better than playing within the stock market at this point. I guess it would have been better to buy Bitcoin then, but I guess I didn't do that. So
so many of us say that, don't worry.
Yeah, I know. Well, who knows? Maybe hopefully it'll make a comeback. So then we'll be good.
Yeah.
So so I put it together, and it was a great project. It was a lot of time, a lot of resources, just to use your spare money to do a project like that. But I felt good about it, and I still feel very good about it. And just to read that people have lost weight or gotten in, good shape, or they never liked walking or running, and you look at their profile and they needed it. And, it's a good feeling. So I was glad. And by the way, this app, we have the free version and the full version is just 99 cents. I'm not going to charge someone $4 or $8, just for an app that costs me nothing to reproduce. So. Right.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it really came out of, you wanting to do this. Is you got results out of a similar app, and so you wanted to make something that appealed to you in the same vein.
That's right.
And you wanted to help people. I can totally hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely what happened, and it's been a great adventure so far.
Yeah. Now,
but I'll tell you something frustrating though. Not in a bad way, but we get very good reviews on the App Store, right, and Google Play, and usually when someone gives it a 1-star, it's some BS thing like it gave me such and such error, wouldn't let me install, and I look at the error and it's like, well, they didn't have memory, they didn't have space on their phone to install it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Some BS. So I write them back politely, and but then they keep it at a 1-star. So most people are giving this thing 5-star reviews, right, on every version. And like I said, we've worked all to my understanding, we've worked pretty much all the bugs out of it, but the issue is that it's just people. So it's not that people. It's a good product, is what I'm trying to say, from my understanding. But we just haven't gotten it to go viral yet. And I believe if we could get it to go viral the same way that Zombies Run people are doing it with that app, it really would take off to that level.
Yeah. I think that's the trick, maybe for a lot of apps, is just figuring out what gives it, that virality that really makes it pop. And what the trick is there, I don't believe in luck,
right.
But I guess to some degree, maybe there's lucky breaks of some kind.
Well, the biggest indicator of success on the app stores is what ranking it is. So if you're in the top 50 or the top 20 or the top 10, that is way more important than it's the Twitter ad posts or the Facebook ads or any of this stuff, even TV advertising. If most people find apps by looking on the Play Store or the App Store and browsing like fitness apps. And if you're not in the first couple screens of apps, it severely reduces your exposure.
Sure, yeah, I can
And to
imagine.
get there, the only way to pay to get there is really I shouldn't say the only way, but one of the most common ways these companies, they spend like $200,000 promoting their app just so they get a top 10 or top 20 spot. And then if it's a good app, it'll stay there for a long time till they recoup their investment. That's the way they do it.
Well, now this raises a question for me. I mean, what does it take to really like get your app into the Play Store or the App Store or the Amazon App Store? Like how difficult is that process to even get in there?
Well, at the beginning, so Amazon has a $0 registration fee. Google, I think, was $100 one time, maybe 50, and Apple was one or two, I think maybe $200 one time, and then $100 recurring. I just renewed the Apple one, so you're looking at a few $100 just to be able to be a developer and be able to access their system, right? Mm-hmm. Once you've developed the app and assuming it's ready, it's not so bad. Amazon and Google are pretty easy to just upload it. They review it, and within a day or two or three, it's approved. Apple has a much more strict process, and usually they'll knock it down like the app. Someone will be like, okay, shoot the aliens. So they'll be like, oh, you have to put a warning that it might not be suitable for young children. It could be violent. I mean, we don't have like really foul language. We don't have like a damn here or there, hell. But we don't have any really bad language, nothing worse you'd see on TV. So that slows it down. And then every time you do a little update, like we tweak the GPS accuracy, then it might take another week or two for them to approve it. But that's pretty much it in terms of costs.
Okay. And so, but I mean, but I guess that doesn't shock me about Apple being so strict, especially like on a language aspect or on a content aspect. I mean, I'm still totally burned and flustered at the fact, like, I mean, you can't even have farting apps in the App Store, just things that makes the sounds of farts. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. I get it. I'm not that interested in those either, but why not have them?
Right. It's not going to hack your phone just by having that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, so that doesn't shock me that they're that strict, but that's good. I mean, you're out there on all three of those. So it doesn't sound like, I mean, there's some costs, but it doesn't sound like a terribly complex process to get an app. Because some people might hear this and maybe they'll get inspired. First off, I hope they get inspired to use your app. But second off, I imagine they may get inspired to try out doing apps themselves. Now, this book, App Empire, that you kept mentioning, is this still a very current publication? I mean, is it still something useful that you'd recommend to people?
Well, yes and no. It does give you all the starters, and you need a graphic guy and this guy, but he makes it seem way too easy, and I don't think that. I think there's a ton of books that are going to be very similar. So it does get you started. Having said that, the average person isn't going to be an app multimillionaire, making $100,000 every day, from their apps. And what he does is very different from what I did. He kind of looks at the top, his strategy that he recommends, he looks at the top 10 or 20 apps, and he says, okay, what could I do a couple of things to make this a little bit better? I could improve the graphics, and I could add this feature. And then he goes to someone like in India or, wherever on these websites like Odesk and says, hey, could you do this for $600? And then they do it. He shows it to some friends, improves. And it's like this methodology, not to make an awesome fitness app, but just to kind of take the Flappy Bird of the day and say, well, if I could capture even 50% of this, I'll make a 10,000% profit, that kind of a thing.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. So I used it to get me started, but I did something very different. I mean, I had a lot of features that I added beyond Zombies Run and all the voice recording and stuff. I turned it into a much bigger project. It wasn't just a money-making scheme for me. Yeah.
Right. Now that leads me to the next question is are there features in the future that are coming? One in particular, and I don't recall if it could do this now, is it able, because you can do a playlist, is it able to access like Google Play Music All Access, like these streaming services, or does it all have to be local music?
Excellent question. That's probably the most requested feature that we get. Besides, can I run in silence is one, which we added, no problem. And another one was, can I skip a song I don't like? And the answer is no. Well, we purposely didn't put that in because the point is, if you say I want to run for 43 minutes because I got to shower and catch a bus, to work, you don't want to, if you skip the songs, that messes up the whole algorithm of how much longer do you have so that your workout finishes in approximately 43 minutes, So that's not a feature we added, but the streaming, Pandora, Spotify, Google Music, people really want that. And we haven't been able to integrate that, but that's because those apps don't allow us enough access to their library or their streaming in order to do it. Now, somebody could put on Pandora or Google Music in the background and put our app on BattleSuit Runner Fitness on silence.
Right.
But the issue is it's going to kind of play a little bit loud over the voice. So if you put it on low, then you'll have voice acting with some low music in the background, which is cool. And then when the music comes on, you'd have to manually maybe up the volume on your phone. So if that works for you, you can do that. But the setback is they don't allow us access, and also they don't allow us to know when Pandora plays a song. We don't know how long. There's no way for us to know how long that song is.
Right.
From their server. So it would make it hard for us to pick a workout time based on the player's suggestion.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, that's really, it's in no way a flaw on your side. That's a flaw on their side. And it's one of the, and I use Google Play Music, but at the same time, there's a million times where I recognize that there are some serious limitations to having, cloud storage in that way, or, cloud, the only way to get it is through cloud access, and whichever else. And I mean, and there's a million times where these cloud streaming music apps really, they fail, and they fail hard, where, you can't access this song or something like that. And it really sucks. So if
that's going to crash your workout, that sucks even more, because then,
exactly.
You're like 90% done with a mission, and then all of a sudden it crashes the phone. Well, your progress isn't going to be saved, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So people should hack it. If they really want to, let them run it in the background and hack it. Yeah. Another hack is that people said, well, it doesn't track my workout the same way that Nike Plus tracks it, or, Runtastic. Well, look, people, it's not, sorry, but it's not a workout logging app with all the bells and whistles that they have. It'll tell you how far you ran. It'll tell you your average speed. But again, if someone wants, those advanced tracking and social media, things, they should just run one of those, their favorite app in the background. It works perfectly. There shouldn't be any issues. If your phone has enough memory, you can run it with your, Runtastic or Couch to 5K, and it'll track it, as much as you want, until tomorrow. It'll map out your run, all that stuff. Yeah.
See, now I see this as, to me, this is a plus, because I in fact, a recent story I covered on Sovereign Tech was how in court, like a lot of, your fitness data, your metadata, whatever, is getting used, in court from a Fitbit or whatever. And it can be used, in the case I talked about, it was used to actually help a woman, with a lawsuit. But I could easily see where insurance companies could use it against you, having all that data about it. So the fact that yours is more, I don't want to use the word basic, but that it's, or limited, but I'm not sure which, because of the feature set that you have, I love using it. I like the fact that it's not giving me all that, because first off, I don't care, about all that extraneous data. But second off, I would think almost that it would distract from the story itself, and from all of that itself, if there was an overload of data to keep track of. And most of even with the Nike Fuel Band and all that can be cheated anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the point?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. One thing we thought about in theory adding, which would kind of have more data, is some of these heart rate, like Bluetooth heart rate monitor compatibility. And look, for someone who's serious at working out, I know in the military, they really push that hard, because your speed isn't so much important. It's, how long can you stay your maximum heart rate, or, what are the intervals that you're using? So that would be awesome, and probably a better indicator of your effort during the workout than your speed, right? And then it would allow you to use it indoors without the GPS issue. Having said that, for a 99-cent app or free app, do we really want to rely so heavily on on like an $80 hardware? I mean, what's the point,
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that makes a ton of sense. So are there other features, though, that you do plan on adding in? I mean, there's have you thought about perhaps I'm trying to think of like Habit RPG, where it actually you're allowed to contrast and compare runs maybe with other people.
So yeah, we do have an implementation on it's only on the iOS version now. It's something called Skills. It's an API and it lets you play against other people. So it's actually a special mission. Soon we're going to add another mission. It's like a special multiplayer mission and it's timed and it's like a race between you and another BattleSuit guy. And they're kind of telling you, oh, hurry up, you're almost there. And through their app, you can actually gamble for, or not gamble, you can wager either their fake money, which is fine, or if we have enough users using it, they'll turn on the functionality for you can actually bet real money, and they'll group people with people at similar skill levels. So it's tough because we're concerned. We don't want people to bet for real money and then have someone get in a car and like they walk for 30 minutes, then they play for real money and then get on a motorcycle, right? But we have some ways that we've incorporated to kind of prevent or help reduce the chances of cheating. If you go too fast, then it's gonna fail you. So. Multiplayer is one feature that's in iOS, and we'll probably integrate it to Android once they have their functionality ready. And there's a bunch of different apps that you can use on their network, which you can kind of use the same currency to kind of wager, skill-based apps. And then the other one is that we're working on now is that you can kind of get these like free rewards. So like if you run like 3 miles, you might get like a pizza, which I guess defeats the purpose. But like Papa John's will give you some kind of thing. So these kind of gifts that you can kind of reward yourself. But we don't want to get too far away from our core competency, and which is a game. And I'd say a immersive fitness workout. And if we were really going to focus on putting a lot of resources into new features, it would be just more missions, right?
Yeah,
more missions, keep it going longer, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's actually, honestly, like at the end of the day, if myself as a user, that's really what I'm looking for. It's just more missions, and I'm sure that's probably true for most. So you guys have, I think you've got the right, outlook on what people want. I think you've got the finger on the pulse there. Yeah. So,
but we're open to feedback. We try to incorporate whatever we can.
Yeah. Yeah. So in fact, real quick, is there like an easy URL to find? I mean, I'll put a link in the show notes to sovereigntech.com for, where it is in the Play Store and whatever else. But is there like you have a full on website?
Yeah. BattleSuitRunner.com. Okay. That'll take you to our App Shout page where you can have the download links and some screenshots. And also if you YouTube BattleSuit, one word, Runner Fitness, we made a little video for it because the graphics really don't do it justice. It's just a screenshot of you upgrading your battlesuit, whatever.
Right.
But if you want to hear some sound from the game, if you kind of want to see, someone using the app and some of the features, we had a short little video kind of trailer for it. So just YouTube BattleSuit Runner Fitness.
Yeah, I'll make sure. I've watched that video. I thought it was really cool. I'll get that in the show notes as well, so people can go to sovereigntech.com and see that as well. Yeah, absolutely. So, is there any more? There's more I want to ask you about, but is there any more on the features or on anything else with BattleSuit Runner that you want to get out there?
No, that's pretty much it. Just we appreciate the positive feedback and emails. If you do have any technical issues or suggestions, there's an email address within the app you can send to, and we hope that it becomes successful. There's nothing I'd love more than to quit my day job and just make sci-fi missions, or we could do other kinds of storylines. Once the software's there, and keep doing that for a living. Whatever adventure game, mystery. The basic underlying programming could be taken in a lot of directions, and I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if. And this kind of leads into the next question I have, because I think it'd be interesting if a lot of gaming had maybe more of a voluntarist or libertarian feel or point to it at times. Is that something you'd ever be considered consider implementing to some degree? Yeah,
definitely. Actually, it's funny. There's just a character in the thing, and it's Dr. Thomas Woods. Right. Dr. Thomas.
Oh, yeah, Thomas. Right? I didn't even think about it.
So, we kind of threw it in there a little bit because, me and the developer, we're both kind of, libertarian people. I'd be happy to do. I'd be happy to do, to do a more of a theme, if there's the demand for it. I figure you can't go wrong with killing bugs. But I mean, I always love movies that have kind of a libertarian kind of, storyline to it. Even Star Wars, a lot of people say has some kind of libertarian vibes, right?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And I love to incorporate that whenever possible.
Yeah, so that leads me to the next question. I'm glad to hear that, and that is, how did you become a libertarian? And I think honestly, it's something I say a lot on Sovereign Tech, that you don't follow the money, you follow the attitude. And when somebody has like the right attitude, like one app I recommend for a lot of people with communications is Telegram, because it's actually run by a guy that's a straight up anarchist, and he's funding it all the way, and he created it to just mess with alphabet soup companies, or not companies, but organizations. And so I say, yeah, use that, because look, this guy's got the right attitude. You want to be supporting this. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important to get that out there. I think the attitudes of people that are developing these things is incredibly key. And so I had no idea when I first started playing BSR that that the developer was you, and that you were, you're a fan of Free Talk Live, you're a fan of my show, and you're a straight up libertarian. I mean, and and that's so exciting. I mean, that's just amazing to have worlds collide like that. Yeah, it blows my mind, really. But in any case, how did you become a libertarian? And only share what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, super. Well, I guess in high school and so forth, when I was lifeguarding and working, and I was pissed about how much taxes I'm paying, even though I'm not using any of these services, right? I didn't even go to public school, and I didn't even have a car, right? So I'm like, screw this. And then being on debate team and so forth in high school, I just kind of became more of like a conservative, fiscally hawkish kind of person.
Sure.
But I had a couple of issues with the police growing up that really, I didn't do anything I should to this day that I felt that I shouldn't have been doing. One was just kind of, I went to a party in high school, and the guy's parents were there, and he's like around midnight or something, they kick everybody out. They're like, oh, we can't sleep. Everybody go home. And everyone was like, had been drinking, and everyone drives home, right? And I'm like, you know what? I'm responsible. I'm not going to drive home. I don't have to go home right now. Let me just go sit in my car. It's parked, out of the way, and I'll just lean my chair back and kind of just close my eyes, until the morning, because I don't want to put anyone's life in danger by driving under the influence.
Right.
And lo and behold, some neighbor, I guess people blasting their music as they're driving off, called the police, and police come and cite me for this kind of, whatever, intoxication, even though whatever. And they lied about it. They said that I'm in the car with the engine running. The engine wasn't running. I'd been asleep for 30 minutes, right? So they lied. Wow. So in court, I'm a 17-year-old guy, and no lawyer, and I go to court for it, and I do this thing where I whip out the Toyota Corolla operating manual. It wasn't mine. It was actually my grandparents' car at the time, right? And and I say to the officer, I say, so in your report, you under oath, I said, you said that he was in the car with the engine running. Is this correct? She says, yeah. And I say, well, so were my lights on, or was the music on? No, just the engine running. I said, okay, could you please read me page 23 of the Toyota Corolla owner's manual? And it says, this model car, she reads it in front of the judge, any time that the key is in the ignition and turned to this setting or on, the lights will be on, right? And there's no way to disable this feature. Right.
It's the daytime running lights.
Right, daytime running lights. And she reads it, and then the judge, I know us, we don't always trust the judges, but he basically threw out of his courtroom. He's like, shame on you. You should be this. You lied. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm like, sweet. So I got out of that. Even though, whatever, even if, I don't think, it was a victimless crime. Right. In fact, I mean,
Right.
If they're going to catch somebody, which arguably I don't think they, the people who drove away, even though, having said that, none of those people got in an accident either. So, where's the victim, right? So that was one. And then when I was in college freshman, me and my roommate and I were studying for, math exams, sitting around in our boxers, and we hear a knock on the door. I go to open the door, and it's these, masked people wearing black with automatic weapons pointing in our face. And they arrest us and throw us on the floor, start kicking stuff over in the room, and blah, blah, blah. Turns out they were executing a search warrant for the next door neighbors, and they mixed up the room number, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I bombed my exam. This is the final exam, and I didn't pass that math class the next day, right? Because this was a several-hour ordeal, and they just, whatever. And the warrant was just for, the neighbors dealing drugs, which may or may not have been true, but, had nothing to do with me, right? So so that was that. So I went through the legal system and, got a lawyer and said, look, this is not fair. I failed my class. I have to, well, first I wrote them a letter and said, look, you should pay me for my class I had to retake, for the tuition and for my time. I make $10 an hour lifeguarding. And, I spent, 8 weeks taking this class over the summer and 3 hours a day and blah, blah, blah. They denied it, right? So I said, okay, go to a lawyer. So we put it through court. And at the end of the day, even though the cop lied under oath many times in his deposition, they got off on qualified immunity, right? Which is that thing that, police can basically do whatever they want because they're doing their job as government servants, right? That they're not grossly negligent, that right. They said. Right. And it's like, well, he went into the wrong room, whatever, in the dorms. So to make a long story short, well, and it's the kind of thing like if you hire the plumber to fix something in your house and he blows up your gas line, he can't claim qualified immunity, right? He's got to pay you for your, damage. Yeah. So those two things together, I said, okay, I'm already fiscally conservative, but, I can't look past this police is already right kind of situation. This is ridiculous. They've wronged me. They've never done anything good for me. They keep, and as I get more educated about issues and the news, you just see it happens all the time to people all over the country and all over the world, and that kind of what sealed it for me.
Yeah, and so that kind of, boy, that sets you on the path of like, yeah, this system just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's incredible, and kudos to you on that Toyota owner's manual.
Oh, it was classic. It was classic. But, it could have gotten another, more pro-police judge, and he would have said, inadmissible or something, so whatever. Right. Or he would have said, who cares that she lied on her report? You were still underage drinking.
Yeah. Wow, man. So, yeah, now also, you're not just, you're not just libertarian or whatever, term. I know people get, how do you feel about that? Actually, this is kind of a personal question. I mean, how do you feel about like terms? I mean, some people want to use anarchist, voluntarist, libertarian. Is there one you like to use for yourself? What's your thinking behind
I don't
that?
Get too worked up about the specifics. I'm pretty familiar. I listen to Free Talk Live and your show, and the Free Talk Live people, they hate the anarchists, and the anarchists, they hate anything but anarchists. Yeah. And it's true. A lot of libertarians, they're not really that libertarian. They're like, just on a couple of issues, and they all of a sudden So I think I'd prefer maybe voluntarist, just because it's a bit more specific about, that they're, it's a bit more specific. Having said that, I don't really make a big deal about what term is what. I mean, any way you slice it, it's a minority position, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. So, but also, you're not just liberty oriented, but you're very interested in the paleo diet and the paleo lifestyle as well. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, the last 6 months or so have been pretty hardcore. And again, lost a lot of weight. I feel great. And it just makes sense. It's just one of those logical things where, I mean, you're not going to die if you have, a piece of wheat, but everything about the science, about the evolutionary biology just totally makes sense. And I urge anyone who hasn't tried it, do the 3-4 week, 21-day paleo challenge or, whatever they call it. And, right. And I really feel that most people will feel better and feel fitter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I've, and I think a lot of people, they're very resistant to it, and they want to come up with these really like niche kind of arguments against it. Something along the lines of, well, if you're really paleo, you'd be eating bugs, and all this stuff. Now, I'm curious, and and if you don't want to share this, that's fine. Just let me know. But I'm curious because you do work in a hospital. Yeah. Do you receive any kind of like? Are there any? Boy, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you get any negative feedback, or what is kind of the feedback you get from people, perhaps, if that ever comes up?
About the paleo diet?
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of the physicians that I work with about it, and pretty much most of them are on board, even though they don't want it, but they agree that it's good science. Most of the patients we deal with, anyone who works in a hospital that's not like a children's hospital in America. I mean, it's hard to really convey that, like, most of the patients are just these really, really sick people. I mean, I don't know if it's statistically the majority, but it's just the ones that spend the most amount of time in the hospital and so on and so forth. So I've really talked to a lot of the physicians about it in the context of, hey, I mean, if someone was paleo, is there really any, if they weren't born with diabetes, is there really any reason they develop it, you know, in their middle-aged or late? And most of them say no. There's really, you know, very little chance that they would, you know, if they're paleo their whole adult life, there's a very little chance that they're going to even develop diabetes. So I'm thinking, you got these people who are like 40, 50 years old in the hospital every 2 months for 2 weeks at a time because of their, you know, diabetes management, and it's like they could have avoided it potentially with just a diet like this, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, wow, you know, I mean.
Yeah, I've heard stories where some people have, like, they kind of started to get the symptoms more or less of developing diabetes, and they would go like on a ketogenic diet, which is just eating, you know, pretty much pure fat. Which I love the line that some people say. It's like, well, they shouldn't call it fat; they should call it energy. You know, but they go on a ketogenic diet and they actually knock it out before they develop diabetes.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so proactive on it. So that is an interesting thing. Yeah, that's interesting. So I mean, you don't get really negative feedback at all as you've encountered it?
No. I mean, obviously people don't want to, you know, just because they can agree with you doesn't mean they're going to stop, you know, they're going to change their lifestyle, which is fine. They don't have to. That's a personal decision.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I haven't heard anyone that scientifically, you know, kind of the paleo thing is you really, you know, unless you're like or the primal rather, you know, the only people who really should be eating what people say is healthy, you know, the conventional wisdom is if you're like a super athlete, like a distance runner, then maybe, yeah, you should have some of these, you know, high carb things.
Right.
But, and all the physicians I work with, they would second that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
you know, with the patients we deal with, honestly, forget about paleo. We just got to stop them drinking orange soda and potato chips in the, you know, in the lobby while they're waiting for their, you know, to enter the emergency room for their diabetic coma. Right? Yeah. I mean, that would be progress as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the whole system's a mess.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's for sure. You know, I really enjoy having the lovely and hyper intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy on this show now and again, and she can really tell some stories about how crazy the medical field is a lot of times, and. Yeah, it's too bad you can't like prescribe. Maybe we could prescribe apps in the future, and you could like put a prescription of BattleSuit Runner Fitness. You know.
Well, you know that's part of the problem. It's not just the payer system, which is a huge problem, but it's also, I mean, all the physicians are unionized, so the optometrists and ophthalmologists, there are apps that can do like a $5 app that can do what 3 visits to them can do. You know, right. and they're just against it. And they'll say, no, you know, we can't this. They won't let the insurances pay for it instead. And they just, you know, they won't let Medicare pay for it instead. So that's a huge part of the issue as well. It's not that the apps and the tools don't exist. It's that there's so much inertia for the status quo. Yeah,
I can really see it. And I mean, when you have so much regulation that just doesn't even let you try something else, it really gets in the way, and people pay the price for it. Unfortunately, with their health, I think it's pretty clear to see.
It's interesting on that topic. I've gotten involved with an organization called Better Place International because of this stifling of innovation in the U.S. healthcare system, or in all developed countries' healthcare system. And What we're actually trying to do is, it was started by a plastic surgeon who got tired of trying to change the system here in the U.S. because every time there'd be like a game-changing, innovative technology, just, you know, for the insurance to approve it and the FDA and the this and the that, it was just, you'd run around for 3 years and it would get nowhere, right? So we're actually going to places where there's nothing, specifically sub-Saharan Africa and some other emerging markets. And what we have is this kind of consortium of these partners. Like, I don't want to name names, but these, you know, really innovative companies, medical, tech, sensoring, you know, Internet of Things, all this stuff that, you know, that you talk about all the time, all the, you know, DNA type powered stuff, all this stuff, right? And basically they're unable to advance these technologies in the US or Europe because of all this pushback. So we're kind of going to leapfrog this system, and Africa's a great place to do it because just they never really built a good landline system. They just went straight to mobile, right? They have a history of leapfrogging. And we just said, kind of screw this bureaucracy. We're not going to make a major, you know, the system's going to collapse before it changes. But if we can integrate these disruptive technology, everything from the way the hospital's built to the tech and the sensors, that go on in it, to reduce the amount of manpower needed to improve the clinical outcomes. We believe that we can drive the cost of healthcare down while improving the outcomes at the same time to something like 1% of what it costs in the US, with the care being the same or better in terms of its quality. So just on that level, we just that's kind of, my app might not have a lot of libertarian plot, but this definitely does.
Yeah.
Just blue ocean theory, just go where there's nothing. So we're excited.
Yeah.
You can check that out at betterplaceinternational.org. That'll be an interesting kind of thing to follow.
Now I love that. This is something I'm kind of pushing hard now on Sovryn Tech, is what I call, or not what I call, other people have already called it that, but it's called, System D. And that's where you just, there's these technologies exist. There's a need. I mean, obviously healthcare is a serious need anywhere on the planet, and you just circumvent everything and you just go, full bore and you do it. Right. And that sounds exactly like the kind of thing that, I am really excited to hear about that. And I think, I've done some research on medical tourism myself, and I mean, it just goes up exponentially every year, medical tourism outside of the US. And so if you guys are setting up, shops essentially elsewhere, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's a Harvard Business Review paper, I forget exactly what it's called, but it talks about how they've been doing it in India to a certain extent, and right. and basically, if you get certain kinds of eye surgeries in India, it's like a fraction of the cost in the U.S. The doctors they have better outcomes. Why? One of the reasons is because they're able to do so many. They cut out all the BS. Each doctor is able to do like 4 times as many surgeries as his or her counterpart in the U.S. And they're sitting on like a swivel chair and going like to their right and do a surgery, and then in between they wash and then go to their left, and the techs are moving patients back and forth so there's like zero downtime. He just breaks for lunch, right? And they bring everything to him or her. And the result is, not only does it reduce the cost because the doctor's time is being better utilized, but they showed how like a basic eye surgeon can become a specialist within like a few months because they're doing so many procedures. And
right, they're building up the experience. Yeah,
and the outcome ends up being better than in the U.S. And the techs and everyone who does it just gets such focused experience doing it. So we was kind of our inspiration for doing this, even though we're going to add in the high tech aspect as well.
Right. Now, how long has Better Place International, I'll put a link for that in the show notes as well. How long has Better Place International been going? Like, how old or new is this?
It's about 1.5 years old, but we're moving extremely quickly. We have a project in Ethiopia now, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in Kenya, and we might be starting one in Nigeria in the near future. And what's neat about it is like when I'm at the hospital, if we want to like add another 3 exam rooms, right? It turns into like an 8-month project with the architects and the this and the that, and before you know it, it's like $2 million in the hole just to knock down some walls and whatever. So what we have is this design. It's a modular. If people have heard of rapid additive construction. And it's a design that every hospital design will be virtually the same. They're going to be purely powered by alternative energy, so solar power, geothermal, all that stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
totally off the grid, right? Because in Africa and these places, you can't rely on the government power system, right, if you want to be
right.
So all these things, and we have a consortium of all these companies doing it. And so the design is actually going to be built, we're pretty set on China. We're going to build the thing in China, ship it, and assemble it within like 30 days, okay? Just so you know, a hospital in the U.S. costs like $300 to $500 million to build, and like 5 years is like a best case scenario. Yeah. This thing kind of gets built. By the time the land is prepared, it costs $10 million to build, ship, and assemble, and within a month or two, it's going to be fully assembled and up and running. So
that is incredible.
They wouldn't let you do it here with the inspections and the this. I mean, you need to schedule these people inspections 6 months out just to check if the water's passing.
Right. Now, how many? I mean, so there's what, 4 or 5 already?
No, so these are projects in development.
Oh, okay, these are in development.
We have at least part of the funding, if not all the funding. We have the partnerships, but that's the beauty of it. It's a solution that you can just implement. So we're full steam with the design and the solar power and all these things even, and then, once we get the money and the land in a new country, it's not an issue to just add the hospital. It's all ready to go. We tell the factory, hey, in 4 months, we want to open this hospital. They spend 2 months building it, a month shipping it and logistics, and a month assembling it, and you're open for business.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, this is like, I think I spend so much time on this show just like constantly, knocking on stuff and just, saying how bad everything is or whatever. To hear something like this, that this stuff's really happening. Man,
it's
is that
all
exciting.
These ideas that you talk about. It's all the ones that you read about that scientists discovered a way to X, right?
Right.
But 10 years later, they never actually did it because of the status quo, right? So when we're starting from scratch, we are actually, to tell you the truth, in a lot of cases, these companies not only are we not paying some of these companies, they're actually paying us to put their technology in the hospital. Because, you might remember a few years ago, like Google had their health records, right? And it didn't really take off, right? So and a lot of companies were in that position because government said, no, there's privacy and there's this. And believe me, privacy is very important. But it's to the point now where, like, if you have prostate cancer, right, and you do a study and you sign 40 pages of legal documents saying, yeah, I'll participate in this study to further research, and then a week later, there's a new study that needs a patient like you. They can't even use the data. There's no way for you even to approve that data being used by them. So by using this cloud computing and everything, we're able to leverage things that some of these big players really, really have been wanting to do for a long time, to really accelerate the research process and prove these concepts. We got someone who has a cure for a 20-minute surgical procedure that's a cure for diabetes. I mean, we believe it is. But in the U.S., there's too much pushback to even be able to use it. Meanwhile, you have people, dying left and right in these countries, from a car accident.
See, that's so incredible. And that's the thing, like, with privacy that you mentioned, I totally understand. But if people, and there are plenty of people that would be like, no, look here, I'm willing to be, for lack of a better phrase, I'm willing to be your guinea pig. I'm willing to take part in these trials, but the government gets in the way out of people's own desires. Right. And it's not just like, it's in no way is it for their own good. They're just wanting to live a normal life or be healthy or get cured of whatever they've got going on. That's crazy for government to get in the way of that, but that's awesome to hear that there's groups working around it.
Let's say you're an African working in a mine and the mine collapses, right? And it cuts and you rupture your spleen, right? And you're going to die and you get to the hospital and the hospital's there. Most of them can't even do this surgery. Okay. It's like nothing. It's just like a bed to die on. I mean, I've seen it. Okay.
Sure.
And so in the U.S., if you don't have a surgeon come and operate on you, you're going to die, right? So they have to have the surgeons in the hospital on call, and some, takes them. And there are cases where it takes a surgeon an hour to show up, and the person dies. It happens. So what we can do is have a robot that's doing the surgery, and the surgeon can be in their living room in the U.S. or wherever, and they'll just have a tech locally. I mean, if the bandwidth was big, it was good enough, we could have the surgeon doing the surgery remotely. But we can just have a technician operating the robot. The physician's looking at a high-definition screen, walking him or her through every step of the way. And you can save 1 million lives a year with those kinds of things. 1 million lives a year easily. But it's never going to fly here in the U.S. because the first time something goes wrong, then someone's going to sue. The robot didn't do this. But you go somewhere where the status quo is people are dying, right? And they have nothing. Yeah, they will agree to do that. And I think the technology is much more advanced than people give it credit for anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Either way, life is risk. I mean, and it's up to each individual to, for their comfort level on that. It is not up for groups and organizations to decide what that is.
Absolutely. You need full transparency, and people should be in control, of their life and what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And that's actually one of our founding principles as well.
That is phenomenal. So betterplaceinternational.org, is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. I don't even know where to go from there because that's just so cool to hear about. Boys, wow. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, a lot to really take away here. I mean, you've got BattleSuit Runner Fitness that people can do, honestly, just to, I mean, that's not even, it can be intense, but a relatively cursory thing to look into as far as, being more healthy.
Absolutely. A lot of people, I'd say the majority of our users use it by walking. And I don't know that from spying on them because we don't track any of that data, but just people's feedback is mainly walking, or maybe they walk, and when they need to sprint, they do a light jog, and then they go back to walking. And that's totally cool.
Yeah, and then I mean, then it goes all the way to Better Place International, where I mean, Rafi, you are doing the good work here, man. Because one of the things I like to talk about is that, I mean, one of the best ways to really, best forms of activism that anarchists, libertarians, whatever can do is to just be, insanely healthy. Mm-hmm. To be, ridiculously healthy, and because then you can circumvent so much of the system that is, really is trying to control. I mean, you think about Obamacare and all these other things, and so anything that one can do, or even just having more options to stay healthy, like really self-sustaining, efficient, advanced hospitals all around the world that you guys are developing and all that. I mean, that's really hopeful. To hear about, and it's something that people can do, and it's easy, really, I think, well, it's hard work to stay healthy, certainly, but it's an easy one. You don't really have to ask much for permission. And clearly, no matter what level you're doing it, as like Better Place International is proving. So Rafi, do you have anything else you want to get out there? Because I mean, I think we're ending on a real high note, and I love it.
No. I first of all, I just appreciate the time. I'm a huge fan. I love your show. I loved you when you were on Free Talk Live. I love Sovryn Tech, and I appreciate you helping to spread the word both about Better Place International and BattleSuit Runner Fitness, and look forward to being a fan for a long time to come. And we'll have to go get a drink together next time in New Hampshire.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying all that. But definitely, I'm happy to spread the word, but boy, I love far more the people that are really making it happen, which you clearly are in every way. I mean, you're enabling people to be healthy, in very easy ways, as well as, really, really huge ways. And that's, boy, that's phenomenal. So, Rafi, thank you so much. I'm glad you got in touch.
Thanks so much,
This might be my favorite special so far. This is really good. So anyway, so the websites, the two websites, betterplaceinternational.org, and then, of course, the BattleSuit website again is?
BattleSuitRunner.com.
BattleSuitRunner.com. So I do urge all of my listeners, check out both of these things and do what you can do for them. Use them, and it's just tremendous. So, Rafi, thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Carpe Lucem, everybody. I'll see you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.